Welcome to Pizza Clicker class 1 and 2. I will start by deleting the sprite that we get for free, and then I will upload the sprite that we prepared in class. So it's right here. I'm going to make sure that when we start the game, it is going to be at the center of the screen, which is right here. And the center is 0 and 0. So now if I start, it will go to the center. We need to have an on-click event. So when this sprite is clicked, I want to do something. The thing I want to do is that I want my slices, which is for all sprites, to increase. So I'm going to change slices by 1. And then we need to remember every time we add a variable, we need to reset the variable. So on the backdrop, when the game is started, I'm going to set slices to 0. We might change this later because we might want the game to remember the state. But let's see how that looks now. I click and slices go up. So I know that every time I click a pizza, I want a slice to jump out. So let's upload the sprite for the slice that we prepared as well. It's right here. And I'm going to say, when we start the game, I want the original slice to be hidden. So I'm going to set, when the green flag is clicked, I hide that one. And then what I'm going to say is, when I start as a clone, if I can find it here, I want to show it. And after I show it, I want it to go to the pizza. I don't want the slice to start some random place. So I'm going to say go to pizza. And then I want it to fall down. So I'm going to say forever change y by some value, and I want it to go down, so it has to be a negative value. And let's just use -3 for now. So now when it starts as a clone, it will go to the pizza and it will fall down. Now on the pizza, I say when this sprite is clicked, I'm gonna create a clone of slice. So let's see how that looks. Here, it creates a slice and the slice falls down. So we can see the slice just hangs around down here. So on the slice, instead of saying forever, I'm going to say until it is touching edge here. And then after it touches the edge, it's going to exit this block, so it's going to go down here. And I'm going to say delete this clone. So let's see how that looks here. And it's touching the edge, so it goes away and looks good. But it's way too big. So let's go to the slice and let's look at the size here. And I think I want to change the size to 20. Well, let's say 25, like that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it already looks a lot better. But as you can see, when I click elsewhere on the pizza, it still summons the slice in the middle of the pizza. So what I want to do is, I want the slice to go to mouse pointer instead. And I know that's okay, because I only ever create a clone of the slice if I'm touching the pizza. So it will not summon out here by random. Let's see how that looks. Now I can summon them elsewhere. Now we do have a small bug. If I click the pizza, it spawns a slice that I would expect. But if I click it and then I accidentally click the slice next, I don't actually get a new pizza. And that's because I have to actually click the pizza. If I click the slice, I'm not clicking the pizza underneath. So we need a solution for that. And the way we're going to do that, instead of having when this right clicked, that is exactly the problem. I'm going to add a forever loop to my pizza here. And the first thing I'm going to do is what is it we're actually looking for? So I'm going to wait until, let me hide this a little bit. I'm going to wait until my mouse is on top of the pizza. We have that in sensing. So we have touching mouse pointer. And then I also need the mouse button to be down. So we have something here called mouse down. I want both of these to be true. So I'm going to add an and between them like this. I'm going to say I'm going to wait until the mouse is over the pizza and the mouse button is down. And then I'm just going to move this over here. So that should work. Let's see how that works. Now I'm spamming slices and I'm not even clicking, I'm just holding down my mouse button. So normally in a click, we have to click the button and we have to release the button. So what I can do is, I'm going to say wait until not mouse down. And then it should look, if I hold the mouse button now, it doesn't happen. Now the slice comes when I let go of the mouse button. This is actually a bug that we're going to fix next time. Let's try to make the slices a little bit more interesting. Right now they just, as we just saw, they just fall down in a straight line and it's a little bit boring. The first thing I need to make sure is that the slice is actually on top of the pizza. And I've been lucky here in my case. But some of you might notice that the slice is underneath the pizza. We cannot know which one is on top. So I'm going to have to take the one that says go to front layer and put here. So I'm sure that it's on top of the pizza. We're going to talk about layers again later. Now I want the slice to get a little bit of a side direction as well. So I'm going to make a new variable that I'm for this sprite only, that I'm going to call speed x. Left and right is x. And before the loop, I'm going to set speed x to a random number between -2.1 and 2.1. Remember that if there's a decimal point here, it doesn't grab a whole number, it grabs any number between those two. And then in here, after it moves down, I'm also going to say change x by speed x. And let me just remove this speed x from the screen here. You can see it's up here. I don't want that. Like that. Let's try it again. So now it moves to the side as well in a random direction. I also want it to fade out so it doesn't go all the way down. And the way I can do that is I can simply go to look and I can say change. Oh, let's go back to the slice. Change ghost by 3. So the ghost effect is, if it's 100, it's invisible. If it's 0, it's fully visible, and it starts at 0. Now it slides, goes away like this. We do have one thing more that looks a bit strange. When I look at the slices that spawn out of my pizza, they don't look like they're falling. They look like they're just like sliding across a table or something. So if you imagine, or you can actually do it, take something in your hand and throw it up in the air and catch it again. You'll notice that when you let go of the item, it goes fast, and then it slows down and slows down and slows down, and at the top is actually not moving, and then it starts moving faster and faster and faster and faster down again. We're not going to take some stuff in our hand and throw it up. But we need to simulate this, that it's when it's going up, it should move slower and slower and slower, and when it moves down, it should move faster and faster and faster. But slower and slower and slower when it moves up, and faster and faster and faster when it moves down, is actually just we are subtracting a number from the up speed. So when it moves up, the speed up is positive, and then when it moves down, the speed up is negative. So we just want that number to be lower and lower and lower. The way we can do that is that we create a y speed on our slice as well. So let's make a variable, and we're going to call it speed y for this sprite only. And I'm going to set speed y. Let's just set it to 5. And then in here, where we say change y by -3, we're going to change it by speed y. We're missing one thing. If we do this right now, it will move up faster and faster and faster. No, it will actually just move up. What I want to do is, every time it has moved, I want to change the speed in the up direction. So I'm going to say down here, change speed y by -1. So after the first lap through this loop, it will be 4. So it'll move up a little bit slower, and then 3, so up slower, and 2 and 1 and 0, it'll not move, and then -1 and -2 and -3 and so it'll move faster and faster and faster down. So now if I do this, see, it starts by moving up, and then now it actually looks like it's falling. Our brain recognizes this pattern. I don't want this to just be 5. I want this to be something a little bit random, so it looks like they're being spit out by something. And I like these numbers, 4.1 and 10. You can write what you want. And then I want this acceleration to be a little, this acceleration actually, I want that to be a little bit slower, so I'm going to write -0.5. And now if I run the game, they're being spit out in a little bit random directions, and they fall down and they fade out. Even when they're faded completely out, they're still actually on the screen. We just cannot see them. But as soon as they touch the edge down here, they go away. Let's see if we can make this look a little bit better. Obviously, the first step is to make a backdrop. And I'm just going to choose a backdrop for now. I think the brick wall here looks cool for our picture shop. But up to you if you want to use a different one. And then when I click the slice here, let's start again. It looks okay. It looks a little bit boring now, but there's this other game here that has this cool feature with this aura going, this glow here. And I want to copy that. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go inside this project, and I'm going to find it. I know that it's this glow right here. So this sprite, I'm going to open my backpack, and I'm going to drag the entire sprite into my backpack. Now it's here. Now I can go back to my project. I have it open in another tab. I'm going to go into my backpack, and it has this cookie glow here. I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to drag it over here. Okay, let's try that again. Here we go. Let's look at the code for this one. So the first thing I'm going to rename it to Pizza Glow. I don't want some cookies in my, like that. Let's see. When the green flag is kicked, it goes to cookie. I don't want that. I want it to go to pizza. Set size to 75%. That's okay. Create a clone of myself. That is this code over here. We'll look at that in a second. And forever, it will turn left slowly. And then every time it has done that, it goes to the pizza again. we don't actually need that, so let's just remove that. The clone will be turned slightly compared to the original one. It's slightly smaller and it moves in the opposite direction a little bit faster, and we don't need it to go anywhere either. So let's see how this looks now. Oh, it's on top of the pizza. It's because, as we just discussed with the slices, we don't know actually in what order they are placed. So this one, we needed to, if I can find that, go to the back layer, like that. And the clone is at the same layer as the original, so that's why it also went to the back. Now, starting to look good. I want to add a little bit more fun to my pizza here. So when I click it, the pizza just looks like it's stationary. I want to have it like jump a little bit. So the way I can do that is every time I click it here, I can change the size by -15. Now if I run the code, it will get smaller because I'm not changing it back. The first thing we need to do is, when I restart the game now, it doesn't go back to 100%. Scratch remembers all the states of all our sprites. So I want to set size to 100% when we start the game, just so every time I start it's back to 100. It still gets smaller. The first thing we could try to do is, after I change it by -15, I can set it back to 100. Let's try that. Now I don't see it, and that's because it changes by -15, and then before it actually shows it on the screen, it changes it back to 100. Okay, so let's try to put a wait in there. Wait 1 second before it changes back to 100. Yeah, that looks okay. Now the problem is that I cannot click the pizza while it is small, because my click logic is inside the same loop here. So it will wait 1 second before it ever comes back to wait for the click. So that doesn't actually work. What I need to do is I need to make a different loop over here where I change it back to the size that it had. So let's do this. And now I don't want to set the size, I want to change the size, because I don't want it to be immediately back to full size. I want it to be a little bit slow. So I'm going to change the size here. And I'm going to change the size by the difference between 100 and whatever it has now. So over here it changes to 100 minus 15, which is 85. That means I can calculate how much bigger do I want it to be over here. I want it to be the difference between 100 and 85. And 85 was the size it has right now. So I can say I need to change it by 100 minus the size that it has right now. And we actually have a way to see what size it has, and it's here inside looks. It's down here, size. Let's try that. It is still doesn't show anything. That's because there's no delay over here. Now we could actually add a wait 1 second over here. And it works, but it looks strange. First of all, I don't like this wait here. What I would like it to do is change a little bit all the time, but I don't want to change it all the way immediately. So I could take this difference here and divide it by something. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it by 3. So what will happen is, the first time it comes through here, it will say the difference is 15 divided by 3 is 5. So it will change the size by 5. The second time it comes through here, now the difference is only 10 because we already changed it by 5. So now it will say 10 divided by 3 is a third, 3 and a third. And then the next time it will change by a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less until it gets back to 100. So now it will look like this. You see, now when I click it, it jumps out a little bit. I want it to be that when it's close to 100, it's never gonna get to 100. This one, it will get really close, but it will never get to 100. It works like it is, but it's not beautiful, and I like it to be beautiful. So I'm gonna say if it is close to 100, so that means if this value here is less than 1, 100 minus size, if that is less than 1, then don't do anything. So we're going to have the comparator here, and I'm going to say less than 1. Don't do anything. So what I would normally do is, because we're using this gatekeeper pattern that we talked about, I would say here, stop this script. And I would put this on top here. The problem I have right now is that, sorry, I forgot one thing. Up here, I would just say set size to 100 and then stop the script. The problem is that this script is actually this entire script here, so it will stop the forever loop. Scratch does not have something that is jump to the end of the forever loop. So we need to create a new block that I'm going to call change pizza size and run without screen refresh. Put it down here. Now I can take all of this code here and put down here, and I can do like this. So now when it stops this script, it only stops this script and it jumps back to my loop up here, and it will continue to run. That works. Now I have here and here, I have the same math going on. I would actually like to do that only one time. What we could do is I could create a new variable and I could put it here, and then I could reference that variable. But we have another clever thing we can do. If I right click on my change pizza size and I click edit, I can add an input. And that input I'm going to call size difference. Size difference, like that. Okay. So now up here, where I use the block, it has an empty field here, and down here I have this one, and this one I can drag. It's not. So this one that says 100 minus size, I'm just going to put that up here. Yeah, and it's not a Boolean, so that was a mistake. Let me move that. It has to be a number or text. Size difference. I'm not going to delete that. You have to see I make mistakes as well. Okay, and now I can put this here. So now when I use this block, it will calculate this one time, and then down here I can just take this and put here, and I can also delete this one and put it here. So I need to calculate it once, and I did not need to make a new variable like this. We have a small problem right now. If I change this one to plus something, let's change it to 20, not minus 20, but 20. And then I try to run the code again. Nothing happens. And that's because the size difference is actually less than 1. It is minus 20. It is 20 too big. So 100 minus 120 is minus 20, which is less than 1. So I don't want to know what is the actual number. I want to know how close to 0 is it. If it is really close to 0, no matter if it's because it's just above 0 or just below 0, I want to set the size to 100. And in math, we have a way to do that, and it's called the absolute value. Absolute, think of it as I want to know how far from 0 it is, not if it's positive or negative. So I can take my size difference here and put inside this and put this one here. So if the distance to 0 is less than 1, then set the size to 100. Let's start the game again. See, now it gets bigger when I click. I want it to be smaller, so I'm going to change this one back to -15. There's one more funny thing I can do here with the pizza size. If I wanted to, I could add some more numbers here. This block down here doesn't care what we wrote up here. It will just do whatever it has to do. So let's add something here. I'm gonna take the thing we had before, and I want to add a different number here. The number I want to add is if my mouse is over the pizza, I would like the pizza to be a little bit bigger. How much bigger? 15. This is going to look strange. I can take this one that is called touching mouse pointer, and I can put it here. So I can multiply 15 by am I touching the mouse pointer? And that's because the way Scratch actually saves this is if I'm touching the mouse pointer, this is 1. If I'm not touching the mouse pointer, this is 0. So it is, if I'm not touching, it is 0 times 15, which is 0. If I am touching, it is 1 times 15, which is 15. And I can add that to my number from before and put all of it back here. And now if I start the game again, when the mouse is over, it changes size. I'm not clicking right now. It does this strange thing because we have a bug in our code. Right here, we set size to 100%, which means when I move my mouse over, at some point it's close to the size it should be, and then it jumps back to 100%. So this one is actually wrong. What I should do is I should change, let's move this one out, change size by size difference. So no matter if it gets close to the size it should actually be, just set it to the size it should actually be. And now when I move over, it gets bigger, and then I click, it gets a little bit smaller, and when I move away, it gets small again. I also want to add a little bit of sound when I click the pizza. So the first thing we need to do is go to sound and click this one here. We're just going to use one of the sounds from Scratch, and I like the side stick. So when I play that, it's too long. It's not the sound I like, but I can click faster here. Like that. That sounds good. And then I will go back to my code and I will change play sound side stick snare. Now I'm just going to change the order of this a little bit so it looks like the code that you have from class. So this one just needs to go up here like that. And now it looks like this. The final thing we did in class was that we added some more sprites. So I'm going to upload a sprite. I'm going to upload the waitress that I found, and I'm going to upload the chef that I found, and they're way too big. So let's see. The waitress, I think we should make her size 20. And the chef, I think for now, we're going to make size 25. So just like in Cookie Clicker, I want the waitress to be over here, and I want the chef to be here. So the waitress is going to be instead of the cursor, and the chef is going to be instead of the grandma. But now this pizza here, I don't want it to be in the middle anymore, because I want some information over here. So I'm going to go back to my pizza, and I'm going to say, instead of being at the center, I'm going to move it to the left, and I do that by changing this X value here. Let's see what happens. Now it's there. Oh, let's remove this variable from our screen. So I go to the slice, and I remove this speed Y here. I only want to see the slices right now. So now, when I click, I get one slice. There's beautiful slices that jump out. There's some sound. And I have these two sprites ready for next time. So, see you next week.